we're just starting to cross the threshold of like being ready for another baby. Everybody don't get like wildly excited. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would just give you all an update on how my PCOS has been postpartum, how it is now, and then kind of our plans for trying to conceive again, because I get questions on these topics all the time. I get DMs on Instagram, and I have since early postpartum, like asking how my PCOS is going and like what we plan to do in the future. And I've mentioned things like here and there over various videos or on Instagram, but I thought it would be a good idea to just consolidate it all into one video to give you all an update on how things are postpartum and our plans for next time. So if that is of interest to you, then just keep watching. So just a really quick recap in case any of you are new here. I had PCOS. I was diagnosed with it after about a year of not having periods. Because of the PCOS, we went through infertility. We did 5 rounds of Clomid that were not successful, and then our 6th round of treatment was an IUI with Femera, which was successful, and my son is now 15 months old. For anybody who wants to hear about my infertility story or my pregnancy in more depth, I documented the whole infertility process and pregnancy. So I will put both of those playlists down below. So people ask me all the time about how my symptoms have changed if they have postpartum. So in terms of PCOS symptoms, the ones that were like my primary symptoms were cystic acne and infertility. I also noticed some changes in my hair health. I didn't necessarily have a lot falling out like some people, but like my hair health really changed after I got off birth control, which is when the periods stopped, and that's when I realized like something was going on, and then I got diagnosed with PCOS. And those are really the only ones that impacted me, but the acne and the infertility were the primary symptoms. So in terms of acne, my acne really cleared up when I got pregnant. And you guys, before pregnancy, once I got off birth control, my acne was so bad. If you go back and watch old videos, you can see that I have on like so much makeup trying to cover it. It was really bad. I'll see if I can find some photos because I know I have some on my phone to show you what I was working with. I had never had acne in my entire life, so it was like, holy crap. So my acne cleared up when I got pregnant. That was actually one of my first symptoms of pregnancy. I have a video on all my first symptoms if you guys want to watch. Acne cleared up, and it stayed pretty clear throughout pregnancy. There were a couple of times where it would get worse, but it was never like on the cystic level. And then postpartum, I have not had any form of cystic acne whatsoever. Like I will get pimples here and there, but it hasn't been anything like it was before. And I think I can probably attribute some of that to nursing. I'm not sure. So much is going on with your hormones when you're nursing and just postpartum in general that perhaps nursing has something to do with it. I'm not entirely sure. But since I've been weaning, which I have a video coming on how I weaned, I had a lot of questions on that as well. I thought maybe I'd see some changes in my skin, and I haven't. It's still been really good. But since I started with the weaning process, I did start a natural form of progesterone, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, that again may have had an impact on my skin, but I'm not sure. Long story short, PCOS acne that I was experiencing, I have not had again postpartum, which is really, really great. I'll just quickly touch on hair health. There's not a whole lot to say. I honestly don't know if my hair has changed since postpartum because your hair goes through so much postpartum. I definitely had some hair loss, but it has been growing. Like I cut a good amount of it off. I think in February or March, I cut it like well above my shoulders, and it has grown, so that's good, but there hasn't been like a drastic improvement or anything on my hair health. It's pretty much the same. So lastly, the infertility. For a long time, since that was my primary symptom, I think I would say, is for a long time, I just didn't have an answer to the question of how is my PCOS postpartum, because I can't really gauge my infertility or my fertility because I'm not trying to get pregnant. But what I always said was I did not have a cycle. So it was always hard to say, like, do I not have a cycle because I just haven't gotten a postpartum cycle yet because I'm still nursing, or is it the PCOS? So I always figured it was a mixture of PCOS and nursing. I've mentioned this quite a few times before, but in my postpartum appointments, like my midwife told me, you know, I really don't anticipate you to get a period while nursing because of my history and like my body type and just a couple of factors there. It wasn't really expected for me to get a period while nursing. So it was really hard to answer that question of how my PCOS was doing or how it had changed postpartum. I started weaning around 12 months old slowly, and now that he's 15 months old, he only nurses once a day before bed. And so I did talk about this on Instagram. I don't know how many of you guys that watch my channel follow me there, but I actually did at almost 15 months postpartum get a period, which was like a very big deal. So I like to say now that I think my PCOS is doing better postpartum, which a lot of people say, even doctors say, that things can change in your body from pregnancy, and a lot of the time women with PCOS see more regular cycles after a pregnancy. A lot of the time it's easier to get pregnant the second time around. So I like to hope that maybe my PCOS is better because I got a cycle, especially when it wasn't expected while still nursing. But I have not actually had a doctor's appointment to check out my ovaries and see how things are looking in there to really know. And I haven't come around to another month to see if I'm going to get another period. But just for a little background, in the span of 2 years, I had had 2 natural periods. So the fact that I got one while still nursing completely naturally was a really big deal. And so I mentioned earlier that I was using a natural form of progesterone. So I'm really into essential oils, and there's actually one that has a natural form of progesterone in it, which is made from the wild yam, which is wild. It's not a synthetic form. Any form of progesterone that you're taking, like in a medication, is a synthetic form of progesterone, which is actually really bad for you. And I was really trying to avoid having to take that again in the future because I took it so many times during my infertility process trying to conceive my son. And so I just was like, I'm gonna give this stuff a try because so many people have talked about it in the oil community, and it's supposed to be so amazing, and it's completely natural. People that don't have infertility or things like that use it as well, just to help regulate cycles and make periods a little bit easier to manage and all of that. So anyways, I gave it a go and was using it for a couple months, and then I got a period. So I don't know if it's a coincidence. I think that it had a hand in giving me a period naturally, but there's no way of knowing for sure. But I have heard from other people in the oily community that also have PCOS that they've had the same thing happen to them. So that's amazing. I'm still using it every single day, and I'm excited to see if I continue to have a period, which leads into trying to conceive. So of course we want to conceive naturally if possible. That's always been the plan. I get questions a lot about that as well. If we're gonna jump right into IUI, if we're gonna jump right into fertility treatments, like what our plan is. And it's always been, let's see what we can do naturally. It's hard to say until I see what is going on with my body, which is also one of the reasons I chose to wean, because I wanted to give my body a chance to have a period on its own. And then if not, I obviously can't be breastfeeding while taking fertility medication. So the goal was to always see what happens and hopefully get pregnant on my own. So we've kind of done the first part of seeing what happens. We saw that I got a period, so hopefully that's good news for getting more in the future. At this point, if we got pregnant today, then it would be right about when Leanne turns 2 is when the baby would be born. And we had always said between 2 and 3 years is kind of like our idea of trying to conceive baby number 2. So we're just starting to cross the threshold of like being ready for another baby. Everybody don't get like wildly excited. We're not like taking these big steps to try to conceive at this point. It's still actually a little bit earlier than I would like to, but because we don't know what the future holds in terms of my body and my period, but we're at the point in time now that we're going to try and make the most of every cycle. So I'm kind of just casually tracking ovulation at this point. Nothing is like we are trying, and it may get to that in the future, of course, as more time goes on. But right now things are really casual. I'm paying attention to symptoms, testing ovulation. We're just gonna see how things go. I'm gonna start tracking my cycle. If I get another one, see you know, what my cycle length is, that kind of thing. So right now it's very casual, but we are at the stage where like if we got pregnant, then we're very okay with it, and it would be very, very exciting to do so naturally. Now, say that things don't start happening naturally. We of course will go for the fertility route because we do want to have one more baby. And we've said it a million times, if we can't and we just have Liam, then like we are so content with that because he's amazing and we really would be okay with that. But we do want to try to have a second. So we haven't put any like time limits on it, like, oh, we'll try this long for naturally and then move on to fertility treatments. Honestly, this time around, it's a lot more casual. It's just, we're kind of going with the flow, seeing what happens, seeing what feels right. And if there comes a point where either I'm not getting pregnant naturally or I'm not having a period and we're ready to move on to the next step, then we will. But I don't have a like set time frame for that. I do think this time around we would jump into what we know works, which was Femara for sure. My body did not respond to Clomid at all, honestly. It was not a very good experience. It just didn't work properly for me. Femara worked first time. Everything went as it was supposed to. And then the trigger shot, you know, confirmed that I was going to ovulate. And then I don't know whether we would do an IUI the first time or if we would just try medication again. It's not something we've really talked too in depth about yet because we're kind of just seeing what happens. And our life was so consumed last time by infertility that I really don't want it to be like that again. I did a whole video on, you know, how to get through the infertility process and like my tips for surviving infertility, and one of them was to just not let it be so all-consuming. So I'm trying to go into it a little bit differently this time. I am getting up there in baby age, getting up there, which is so ridiculous. I'll be 30 next year. So in terms of pregnancy, that is like an older pregnancy. Obviously, in terms of that, like the sooner the better to get pregnant, but I know nowadays people are getting pregnant well into their 40s, so it's not something I'm like really concerned about. But because of that, maybe next time around we would jump right into IUI. But again, we don't have any definite answers, which I know isn't like the best conclusion for this video, but that's just my honest answer to where things stand right now. So that was just an update on how my PCOS is doing postpartum and our plans for trying to conceive baby number 2. It wasn't the most exciting video, but again, I get asked these questions all the time, so I thought it would just make sense to consolidate it into one place. It's crazy that we're like already into thoughts of another baby. I'm really excited that I had a natural period, and you guys, I was so excited. It was really awesome, especially because I thought that I had been ovulating. I took an ovulation test and got what looked like a positive, but those have been really not reliable for me in the past, so I was just kind of like, oh. But then I did get a period, so the fact that all of that happened was very exciting for me. So I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along on trying to conceive baby number 2, potentially another pregnancy someday, and all things mom life. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I'm post there a lot more frequently, our day-to-day life things, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Kind of slouch because for some reason today my head is cut off. I finally got my positioning just right and then had to move to get the mic hooked up. Okay. I just ran out of space on my camera. This is why I suck at filming videos, you guys, because it just takes so long. So now on to, like we really would